The armchair quarterbacks are out in full force asking for Kyron Drones to be the quarterback at Baylor University. And are they right? This is Locked On Baylor.
You are Locked On Baylor, your daily podcast on the Baylor Bears, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Tuesday, everybody. Welcome to Locked On Baylor. Drake Toll here from Sports Illustrated's Inside the Bears alongside former Baylor quarterback and now Baylor color analyst JJ Joe. Thank you for making Locked On Baylor your first listen every single day. JJ, you played quarterback. I don't know if you knew that, by the way. The way that I said that was like as if I'm enlightening you.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
You've seen, I just want to remind you, in case, you've seen Blake Shapen, you've seen Kyron Drones, and from your eye, the way you analyze these two guys, I'm just going to leave it vague for you even. What do you see right now, each in their own respect, that make them solid quarterbacks? And have you lost faith in Shapen like so many of these people on Twitter seem to have?
No, I haven't. Having played the position, and it's interesting, we put Shapen because he started so well in this category of, the next RG3. And as great as RG3 was, you had to see him his freshman year. I mean, he did a lot of great things, but he had a freshman year. So I'm not saying Blake is great RG3, but Blake is going through that phase where he's learning. And the problem is this team has high expectations, right? The expectations were to be repeat as conference champions, still have an opportunity if they play well. But
yeah.
So every mistake is like, it's compounded. It's like, fans go crazy, and he's made a couple. Overall, I was looking at some of his stats. I think I wrote something today that, if you look at, just going to his passing game stats, I mean, he's 3.4 to 1 touchdown interception ratio. So he's pretty good in the passing game. The challenge we've seen lately is that against a couple of opponents we should beat, he just made the key mistake.
Yeah.
And that's a young quarterback who has 9 starts. Let me say that again for all the armchair quarterbacks. He has 9 FBS starts. He's played in 13 games, so he's actually participated in a full season. He's going to do that kind of stuff. And I see enough on the upside, Drake, where you just don't switch that out because, a guy makes a couple mistakes, because he did win a Big 12 championship game for you. So, that goes at least a little ways.
JJ, we talked a lot too, even the offseason. We had you on to talk about Shapen and Gary Bohannon when that switch was made and what it was that made Blake Shapen such a good quarterback for Baylor to go with moving forward. Are you still seeing that? What is it? What's that upside that makes Shapen the answer at QB for the Bears?
Well, I think we're seeing it. I think, Coach is as great as Richard Reese is. And Reese, I love to see him come on. I mean, Coach is not ready to give him the diet like he gave him on Saturday, where he got 31 carries, I think.
Yeah.
He's a small guy straight out of high school. You want to manage that. Squirrel, has been dinged up a little bit. Tay is still out. Quaylen was dinged up a little bit as well, but he's running well. So I think what you see is a young receiver core developing with a young quarterback. And that's a great thing for the future because, Blake has, is it 2 more, 3? Help me with.
Yeah. With COVID, I think everybody gets 10. So I think you can come back and play.
So I think what you're seeing is when he has his receivers available, he makes the throws he needs to make. When Monterey is healthy, Hal Presley is coming along. Hated to lose Seth, but I understand that it's the era of football. And then he has 2 tight ends. I mean, I like the way Drake Dabney has been introduced into the passing game in addition to Ben Sims. You see that upside. That upside is that you can have a dynamic throw game or passing game in combination with the very violent run attack as well.
Yeah, it is something that I want to make clear too, that as much as we've supported Blake Shapen even on this show, it's been a consistent, even in the bad games, that, look, guys have bad games, and I can't sugarcoat and say that it was good. There are bad games, and that happens for everybody. We've still liked what Kyron Drones has shown. Do not believe that the quarterback position should flip whatsoever, but do you see bright spots out of Drones that mean that he could be the future past Blake Shapen?
Sure, yeah. I mean, I was really impressed. I wasn't sure. I think I saw Kyron in the spring game, and that's a tough one to go see a young man because, you've been playing against the same guys all those weeks. But I mean, I like what he came. He came in, quick change moment. He came in and made a few plays, kept us in the game. And made one mistake, right? He made just the one throw that as soon as he threw it, he knew it. So But as far as his physicality, his size, his arm strength, he has everything that if he wasn't sitting behind Shapen, he'd probably be starting somewhere potentially. But nevertheless, I think with Kyron, I think coach like he did on Saturday will start to find little things for him to be able to do because let's be frank, you just really don't want to run Shapen. He's not a big guy. He's already had one ding in his head this year. So if I want to go, get inside or do some short yardage, I want to get inside the 10 and kind of give a run pass off to my quarterback. I bring Drones in for that. And I think they'll expand that playbook and not just have him run it in the future. But he can definitely lead a program and win big time.
Both of these guys, it's a good problem to have. Two quarterbacks that your fan base supports and knows that these guys are good. And JJ, we've been hearing this for really the last 6 seasons, dating back to Charlie Brewer. Every year, it's what did you say off the air? What was the quote? I don't want to mess it up about the backup quarterback.
Oh yeah, the backup quarterback is always he's the most popular guy in town, man. Unless you have a Heisman guy, unless you have either RG3 or Bryce Petty or Seth. Those guys, the backup guy is always being talked about.
Always for you, and this looks the quarterback position in general. Blake Shapen's a young guy starting at quarterback on a team that had top 10 aspirations preseason. The pressure that comes with that, from your perspective, when you played QB at Baylor, is there a moment for a kid like that where it just snaps and you get it one day, or is this a slow grind into being comfortable with the keys to a Ferrari that you're now in charge of driving?
It's a process, man. He came and he played well. And here's the challenge for Blake. Enough of the defensive coordinators in the conference, they've now seen enough film on him. So this is why I like quarterbacks to play a lot of games, because when they first see you, you eat them up if you're good, because they like, what is this? It's like what Ewers is going through. What does he love to do? So they study you. And then what happens is the next time they see you, all of a sudden, it's not that they stop you, but then they force you to do something a little different than what you really want to do. So then really for quarterbacks, it's how do I adjust to what they've adjusted to, right? How do I adjust to their adjustment? And that's why I like it. That's usually the third time you see him that now you can tell if this guy really has it. Can he really be a high-level type quarterback? And there's some special guys, right? There's an RG3 where you see him once and then you see him again, it's still the same problem, right? Because he's an elite thrower, an elite runner, an elite mind. But so I think, it's just Blake is in that phase where, hey, defensive coordinators know exactly what he likes to do and they're taking it away. And now he's in that next phase where, okay, how do I move to the next phase of my development of adjusting to what they have taken away?
Well, JJ, I want to get your thoughts all together on not just the season, but really the Kansas game in general. It felt like a lot of things clicked, especially in that first half, defensively especially, where the team looked as sharp as they've been all year long. For that, though, I do got to tell the folks at home about one of my favorite sponsors, honestly, personally, at Locked On now. That is Simply Safe. Now, the reason they're one of my favorite sponsors, and trust me, everybody, JJ's not going anywhere quite yet. The reason they're one of my favorite sponsors is my car got broken into recently. We live on a good part of town, I would say. We live in it's just a bunch of college kids. But it's like a heavy target, I guess, because my car got robbed, my wallet got stolen. Luckily, Simply Safe exists. And Simply Safe has these monitoring systems that we've now purchased. Look, it's a big investment for a college kid, but it's something that was worth making. Because right now, the advanced security system at Simply Safe has these HD cameras that will follow, track, and notice anytime there's possible crime going on. And when there is, they'll alert authorities immediately. They also have an ability to tell whether or not it's a legitimate threat, meaning you're not going to get a call every 3 days. It's like, oh, somebody dropped a package off, we're calling the police. So with all of that, 24/7 professional monitoring, Simply Safe has every one of your doors protected from every threat. They also detect fires, floods, and other threats. Monitoring systems use proprietary response technology for the visual confirmation. Don't miss it right now. Get 40% off your order when you visit simplysafe.com/locked-on-college. 40% off. Customize the perfect system that works for your home by going to Simply Safe. JJ, talk about that Kansas game. Baylor's offense with 24 points in the first half, only allowing 3 points. Coming into the game, too, there's a lot to highlight and like about this Kansas team. Baylor didn't walk all over a Kansas that we're used to.
No, you're exactly right. They're much better. I think they really miss Jalen Daniels. That goes without saying. He's a fantastic talent. But I like Bean. I thought Bean, while different, could really play well. He runs well. He throws the ball well. He's just not as consistent as Jalen Daniels, and that's why Jalen Daniels is the starter. But I thought Baylor came out, determined, hey, to turn the tide a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Bad game in West Virginia, and we were on top of them. And I think everybody left the game feeling like, hey, yeah, we won 35-23, but we should have beat them, 59 to 14.
Yeah.
Because we are in that phase where if it can go wrong, we're finding a way, Drake, to make it go wrong or allow it to go wrong. But that was a great performance against a solid Kansas team.
JJ, I love that you said that. That is one thing that I've come to terms with over the course of the last few weeks prior to the Kansas game. Baylor's a really good football team that's just been good at losing. There are some really sharp teams that at the very end of the game, they can't close it out. They struggle to win because the younger guys don't have that experience. And you're seeing a lot of that offensively till it felt like Saturday. Shapen in the first half stepped up big, but overall, Richard Reese just was a hoss. 31 carries, over 180 yards, and a couple of touchdowns to his name. I was thinking yesterday, of all the freshmen we had circled preseason, I don't think Richard Reese was a name that anybody was throwing out anywhere, and this guy's become a legitimate star for Baylor.
Hey, yes, we talked about Amari Winfield, one of the receivers. We talked about some other guys, but not Reese. And he was a man. I mean, he went ahead and basically said, we're not losing this afternoon. Him along with the offensive line now.
Yeah,
and that would help. That's what helped us win that game. But I'll tell you, we are. That's where we are. It's interesting because you look at this team on paper and you say, there's no way we're 4-3 or 3-3 at the time. And then you watch us play and we do those things that result in losing. Blake right now, he's responsible or been involved in 8 turnovers in 3 games. That if your quarterback does that, and trust me, man, I turn the ball over too. You will lose. And there's not a defensive player or a special teams player or a coach that can coach you out of that loss when you turn the ball over at that rate.
You mentioned the offensive line, and I'm glad you did. It clicked for me on Saturday about halftime. I'm watching thinking, man, the offensive line is playing noticeably well. Something has happened where these guys have turned the tide. Are you seeing that from your perspective too?
Yeah, I thought on Saturday they played their best game. Now, I thought they would be able to run the ball against Kansas, but I think Khalil Keith being back really helped. He didn't play. I don't think he played the whole game. He played a significant amount, but you could tell the difference in him playing a significant role. I think also they focused on, hey, we're going to run the ball versus, kind of be this hybrid. And it can tell. When you tell the offensive line, hey, we're turning the game over to you, you got a veteran group of guys who responded. And it was good to see.
Defensively, too, only 3 points for Kansas in the first half. Dylan Doyle stepping up, being big. Siaki Ika getting through the front line. Another unit, the defensive line especially, even the front 7 or 8 guys inside the box that feels like they took another step in the right direction on Saturday. They still feel far from their full potential, but it's at least good to see them playing at a different level after giving up, 43 to West Virginia. That unit's been so inconsistent. Didn't see that coming, but maybe this is the moment where mid-season they decide that, all right, let's right the ship.
Yeah, I thought Apu played a really good game. He really leveled up. I mean, he didn't get a ton of stats. It's hard for a nose guard to get a lot of tackles, but he was dominating. He had a couple plays where I thought he was going to make the play and he just couldn't catch the quarterback. And he's not going to catch the quarterback. But if the defensive end does his job, that defensive end gets a sack. It didn't happen. And so it was good to see. Hopefully these guys bring that same level of energy on Saturday, because Tech is going to be much better. And the challenge for us right now, Drake, is that we're just in that phase. The coach talked about it. We're having to cover for the guys who are covering. And when you have to play your safeties, 2 safeties high majority of the time, and cover for your corners because they're learning or they're just not where we were last year, you have to figure out how can my guys up front win, and that's what I want to see. The guys who are the T.J. Franklins, the Garmin Randolphs, missing a couple, Johnson,
Snacks Johnson, yeah,
no, not Snacks, he's the corner, but the one from Mansfield comes in, number 7. Help me out, Drake. I'm losing it. But anyway, those rushers up front, we just have to win because coach is not comfortable blitzing this year as much as he was last year. Now, I'll say this. I know it's a long answer. Is that I believe the DNA. I asked coach this question after the game. I said, hey, this team is built to get after the quarterback, to blitz, to steal, all the stuff you did last year. They struggle in zone. Kind of, where's that fine line where you just kind of figure at some point we got to be who we are and we just got to get after the QB.
Yeah.
He gave a good answer, but I think that's where we are.
And Bryson Jackson too. Not
Bryson,
even
Bryson,
Aranda. Yeah.
yeah,
Bryson Jackson too. You're right. That's it's wild to me too. The amount of big names you've named. These are guys we've been talking about for the last year or 2 years or more that are finally trying to fill a role and figured out some seasoned, experienced guys too. And something's got to click. Something's got to figure out against Texas Tech if this team stays in contention for a bowl game, which I think they'll get there. But you're looking at 5 really tough games down the stretch, especially going on the road to Lubbock. I know you haven't had a ton of time early in the week still to do an analysis on that game quite yet, but this feels like a night game, sellout, blackout against Joey McGuire that Red Raiders team is just going to be I can't imagine. They won't be about as fired up as you can get.
Hey, let me put it this way. I hope our guys are ready for a street fight. And I mean, this is one of those ones where, where they're going to be lit for Coach Joey. They know this is a huge game for them. Number one, they want to beat Baylor anyway.
Yeah.
So I hope our guys are ready for the next level of energy that they would expect from any opponent, but especially one that's going to be juiced. It's going to be tough. I played in Lubbock at night. I told people before, I said, hey, look, I really believe that Lubbock was the hardest place that I played in when I was in school. I played at UT, we played at Nebraska, we played at Colorado, we played a lot of places, we played at A&M, but it's something about Lubbock. It's something about being there at night, the noise level. The loudest game I ever played in was not at A&M, was not at UT, was at Lubbock at night, and I could not hear myself call a snap count. And I couldn't tell you why, but it just shocked me. So they can expect that, and I hope we're ready to fight, man.
JJ, last question before we get you out of here. How do you begin to prepare for that and get a team ready to play in the teeth of a fan base and a team as fired up as Texas Tech will be?
Well, I think, to be honest with you, I mean, BYU has kind of spit the bit on us, but I think that BYU environment, these guys can learn from that, because that probably is one of their most, what I'm going to call the most lit environment they usually have, where they had the white out. It was at 9:15 local time for us. It was loud, and so our guys will be able, I think, to kind of use that experience. Now, I believe the Tech's a little bit better team than BYU at this point. So it's really, I think you have to really pull from that experience. And then I just think, man, you just can't. I mean, these guys, here's the deal, Drake. These guys, a large number of them have played in high leverage games. Yeah. Let me put it this way. If Baylor simply figures out how not to turn the ball over, they'll beat Tech by 10. Okay? But if they go there and we figure out how, God forsake reason, that we have to give them a donation, we'll come out of there with an L. It's like the difference between this team is, it's Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, my man.
Yeah. This is going into Lubbock. If your first pass plays a pick six, it's been a fun ride, JJ. But that you can call the rest of that game.
Road back, man.
Yep. That place is going to lose it. Definitely getting out on top and starting fast, I think, is your best bet. I mean, you can even look at TCU, Kansas State, 28-10. They had folks leaving the stadium at halftime. If Baylor can put, and Kansas State ends up losing that game, but if Baylor can get that kind of momentum going early, I think you've got a lot better shot looking down the stretch. And we've seen that at home Baylor games. The fans pack the stands, and Oklahoma State gets up early, and then folks you kind of deflate. So that'll be a big goal this week. And JJ, it was a big goal of mine to get your thoughts on not just Kansas and Texas Tech, but also Kyron Drones and Blake Shapen and all the jazz that all these Twitter folks are talking about. Want to thank you, as always, for coming on the show this week.
No problem, my man. Had a great time.
JJ, pleasure as always. And for those out there, before we get to Dave Aranda's press conference from Monday, I got to tell you all about LinkedIn Talent Solutions. So LinkedIn Talent Solutions is the A1 place to find your next potential hire. You want to be 100% certain you have the access to the best qualified candidates available, and that's why LinkedIn Jobs exists. Help find the right people for your team faster and for free. Go to the purple hashtag hiring frame to create a job at linkedin.com. Then you go to your profile and use simple tools like screening questions you can create to make it easy for you to focus on candidates who have the right skills and experience for you, prioritizes who you'd like to interview, and it's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus their leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Go post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. LinkedIn.com/lockedoncollege. Right now, post for free. But remember, the terms and conditions do apply. Now, Dave Aranda, what do you got for us after Saturday's win and marching into Lubbock this weekend?
It's good to see you guys. Going through the film, a lot of good things. Some things to improve on. I felt where you look at that first half and that third quarter, in particular, you have our team. And you could see kind of what we could become, and then maybe what we've been. And I think in all of it, it's our choice. It's a choice we have to make. And I think it starts like today. I think attending class. I think taking notes. I think being on time for your learning specialist. All of those things. I think the hard choices that you can make consistently put you in a position for easier things down the road. I think the easier your choices are, put you in a position for harder things. And that has been a consistent talking point, and I think it's been one that has taken a while to take hold. And so we're still fighting that fight. We're going to have to mature in that sense so that we can be that first half team, because we've got a lot of football to play. Excited for this next game. I know the environment in Lubbock will be a good one, and a lot of familiar people there. And you watch the film; they play hard and aggressive, and it's impressive to watch. And they're a good football team, and so our best is going to be required to get out of there with a win. And so excited for the week ahead. Any questions you guys got?
Dave, any special feelings, emotions going against Joey's team, going against Joey?
Well, I have a lot of respect for Joey and a lot of the guys on the staff. And so, and I mean this wholeheartedly. I want them to win. I want them to have success, not just versus us, but I want to see them successful. I know the type of people they are and what it means to all of them and everything. And so you want them to have their own success, just, not this Saturday.
It's going to be weird the first time you kind of see them like in person in the red and black and on the other sideline.
No, I think it's, for us, it's going to be, for us, it's going to be starting fast. And then, when we do start fast, not having a lull, not having a third quarter, so to speak. And so that we continue to pound the rock and continue to work on the things that are right in front of us so that we are in position to finish strong. I think that complete game has been way elusive to us. And I think that's probably going to be the most difficult thing of all of it.
Dave, there was a 10-year period in this series where it was a neutral site, but you have to go back to 1990, the last time the Bears won in Lubbock. Is there concern there considering some of the road game struggles this season?
No, I think I think part of the fight, and I appreciate the question. I think part of the fight for us is to not really, look at it that way or label it that way. I think, I think some of the things that were for sure a struggle and for sure a lapse and for sure an underachievement in this past game in the third quarter were really kind of the same things that hurt us at West Virginia, and so one was home, one was away. I don't think the home and away really has anything to do with it. I think it's things within the team to where, I'm going to invite hard things so that, I'm callous to any circumstance that I'm in and that my standards will override any of that. And I think we're still working to get to that part.
Dave,
you've talked about the trackers that you guys use to measure the miles per hour that the guys run and stuff. What are some of the other technology, and metrics that you guys use, and how has that changed since, you started coaching back in the day?
So it's a good question. I appreciate it. I think it's funny because you kind of go back. For me, it's a little bit full circle. I think there was earlier in the year was probably might have been relying on it too much. Hey, this is how fast we're running. They can tell you if it's this is the how far, how hard, measured by divided by time. That would be the load. So you get an idea of that. And then, it can tell you, hey, if they're under 3 miles an hour, this could be equated to walking. This is how much walking is going on. This is who's doing the walking. This is what period of practice, what part of the game. So all of that is there. And so, I think there's early part in the year, I was probably going off the numbers maybe too much. And it was because, I wasn't really feeling the energy of practice. And these would be the old school things that prior to having numbers that you would, if you were just to be on the practice, so you could feel it. And I know there's dudes that come and watch practice, and they'll have a sense of like, is this team in it? Are they not in it? What's the feeling of it? The numbers sometimes can, while they're good, I think they're an aid to that feel. I don't think they replace the feeling, the read of it, And so these last couple of weeks, really, these last 3 weeks, going on 4th week now, I think the feeling has been there. And then you have the numbers to kind of to be there side by side, and I think that's a positive thing.
Coach, you've experienced a night game in Lubbock a time or two. What do you remember about what the atmosphere is like?
I think they have passionate fans. I think it gets to be loud. I remember when I was there, like the frozen tortillas, and just I think it's a fun place to play. I think you get into college athletics to be in environments where it means something to people, and you're playing for something. Something's at stake, and it all kind of matters and everything. And so that's going to be the case coming up Saturday night.
Dave, has the offensive line, maybe particularly the last couple of weeks, become the guys that you thought they would be?
I think we're working to get there. I think prior to the last couple of weeks, there were some guys maybe still living in the aftermath of the year before, and then maybe there's some guys that were fighting the growth that needed to occur, or maybe there's some younger guys that are just trying to figure it all out. And I think all three of those things, at different stages of the earlier part of the year, have all kind of taken center stage. And I give Eric and Jeff and all them a lot of credit, and then the O-line too, because it's hard to look in the mirror. I think it's so much easier to look out and not kind of be critical with yourself, but to be it's this guy's problem, or it's if only this call was played, or any of that. And so we never really got to any of that. It was more of I see it, and they've been fixing it, and it's good to see. And so the more falling forward this past game, and aided by O-linemen pushing running backs, then really I can remember you put a couple games together. In this last one, we kind of beat multiple games of falling forward, and O-linemen have a lot to do with that.
That was Dave Aranda from his Monday press conference talking about Baylor and Texas Tech, and a little bit of recap from Baylor, West Virginia. Richard Reese, man's a freaking beast. Hey, JJ Joe's a beast, too. Want to thank him for being on the show today, give him perspective on the quarterback battle. It's not even a battle, but people on Twitter want it to be one. If anybody knows, like literally think about this. If anybody knows about quarterbacks, it's JJ Joe, especially at Baylor. He knows the university. He knows the coaching staff. He knows both of these quarterbacks. If anybody's going to have an opinion that you should probably take, it's JJ Joe. If you think that JJ Joe is wrong and that you're right, that Drones should play and Shapen shouldn't, who do you think knows more here? You're entitled to your opinion, but maybe open your mind a little bit, rethink a little bit, because I feel like JJ's probably got a little better perspective, unless, of course, your husband is a coach and you are an avid football fan. That's it. If that's the case, then yes, you're certainly entitled to your opinion. My husband's not a coach. I'm not really an avid football fan, but I am a fan of Locked On Baylor, and I want to thank you for making Locked On Baylor your first listen every single day. Subscribe to it if you have not here on the YouTube, or go to, I don't know. Can you subscribe on Spotify and Apple Podcasts? I don't know that answer. I'll figure it out. This has been Always Will Be. Come back tomorrow. More talk about Texas Tech and Baylor. Have some Texas Tech analysts on this week, too. It's going to be nuts. Locked On Baylor.